Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Just before I get into the video, just as I was about to upload this one about Owen Farrell, the reports linking him with a move to Racing 92, as I was about to upload, Racing 92 released a statement denying the reports in the French media that they are about to agree a deal to sign Owen Farrell. Nonetheless, a lot of what I talk about in the video I speak about in a way of if this happens and the questions it would pose to England and the RFU if it were to happen. So it's still relevant, so make sure you enjoy the video, but I thought I'd quickly better record just this extra bit with that added bit of context of Racing 92 have denied those reports. But nonetheless, still potentially big news in the world of rugby and English rugby and the top 14 coming out today. So enjoy the video, I'll see you in the next one. Big news. Big news coming out of French media today. Owen Farrell is on the verge, according to their reports, of signing a 2-year deal with Racing 92. It's big news for Farrell, it's big news for Saracens, and of course for England and the RFU as well. And potentially, if the reports are true, another major scalp for the top 14, which is a league that is going from strength to strength. So I've got a few different thoughts on this. You can have your say in the comments section, and also make sure you like the video, you subscribe to the channel, all of that stuff. Welcome back to you. I think this is two big questions for me when I look at this news and I look at Owen Farrell. Obviously, he's not available at the moment for England for the Six Nations anyway. He was taking that time away from the national team as things stand. But it's big news for England in the here and now, and it's massive for the RFU as well. And I'll get on to the governing body in just a second, because first of all for England and for this iteration of the England team under Steve Borthwick, in the here and now, first of all it's losing his captain for a longer period than he might have necessarily expected to. But there's the bigger question of what this would mean for personnel. For 2 years where you definitely don't have Farrell, who has been a leader in that dressing room, who has been the fly half, or certainly whether he's been centre or fly half, a major factor in how that team is run and how that team is set up. So whether he goes George Ford, whether he goes Marcus Smith, I think it's potentially a really good opportunity to develop. Now, these were developments that were going to happen anyway because of what I mentioned just now with Farrell taking time to step away from the team. But if you look back towards the end of the World Cup and you look at that semi-final defeat to South Africa, and I think we've all said post that game, it gave England a foundation to potentially build upon. I know they then went on and won the bronze medal match with another performance which wasn't too great. But in that game against South Africa, they showed us something. For 50 minutes, 55 minutes of that game anyway, until the scrum creaked and the momentum completely changed in favour of the Boks. England gave us something to suggest there were foundations there that had been built upon, particularly when you consider where they were before Borthwick came in, when he took charge, the team that he said weren't good at anything. Their scrum started to be better, their line-out started to be better. There was something where they could maybe build on that as an attack. And this almost accelerates, I think, that process, because it's a big question for Borthwick. What do you do at fly half? Do you continue along the same sort of game plan, which would be George Ford? George Ford, who was sensational in some of those games in the World Cup. My word, that match against Argentina, the opening pool stage game, when England lose a man to a red card early on, I think was one of the great, certainly one of the great England fly half performances at a World Cup. So do you stick with George Ford, who is an excellent player in his own right, but probably in a similar mould to Owen, particularly in how you would run the attack? Or do you go for the Marcus Smith? Do you go for the Finn Smith? Do you take a more drastic approach to develop the way this England team attacks, because you no longer have the luxury, or some people might say it's a hindrance, of relying upon Owen Farrell? I think that would be the big question for Steve Borthwick as we head into the Six Nations. Now, my gut instinct is he'd go down the route of George Ford and the more conservative approach, because I think we've seen that's how he likes to set up his teams. But I think it is a great opportunity to develop, and to develop that fly half position and someone else to know that they are the nailed on starter. That, I think, would be the fascinating question in terms of the England team here and now, if this news is to be true. But I mentioned another big part of this, and another one of the big questions that come out of this would be towards the governing body and the RFU. And that's because of England's selection policy. They're losing plenty of players that would be being selected for England, or certainly a really good chance of being selected for England already to the top 14 and them ruling themselves out, whether that be Henry Arundel or Jack Willis or Dave Ribbons, Jack Noel. There's been loads of guys, the Simmons brothers, that have already moved over to France and therefore won't be selected for England anymore. But it just once again puts the spotlight on that selection policy. And I've said on this channel previously, I'm not sure that English rugby, particularly the Premiership, is in a strong enough financial position at the moment to be able to have that sort of restrictive policy. These players don't have long careers. They deserve to make the money they can whilst they can. Therefore, should you also have a selection policy for the national team that allows them to make as much money as possible at the moment, if that is playing in France, and still be selected for the national team. I've kind of said that previously. I wonder whether there could be almost like 4 years where they say for the next 4 years you can play abroad and still be selected for England, and then they maybe reassess that. Maybe the floodgates would be open by that point and it would be too late to then go back on that decision. But yeah, that's what I've said previously. The other thing actually as well is pressure to deliver these dual contracts, which we keep hearing about, with another player exiting, the captain, one of the most high, well, the most high-profile player currently in English rugby, for him to be moving abroad as well, I think again paints a spotlight for the RFU of what is happening with these dual contracts. Are they able to get them over the line? We'll wait and see. And not to mention as well, Saracens in this occasion. First of all, Maro Itoje, the reports had been that Farrell would stay and Itoje would be the one leaving. Would this mean that Itoje is the man to stay? And also what it means for that club. Owen Farrell has epitomised so much of Saracens over the years, all the success they've had, in the similar way to how he has with England, and he's been such a presence, a leader, a driving force in that Saracens team. What do they do at fly half? What does it mean for Saracens moving forward as well? All sorts of questions which would potentially have to be answered if this does go through. Overall though, just to close off, I think if it's true, I think it's a great move for Owen Farrell at where he is in his career at the moment. It makes loads of sense for him to get away from the spotlight. It'll be a new challenge for him. He's been at Saracens for a long, long time, achieved everything there is to achieve with Sarries. He's a 100-cap England player. He's been the captain for a while, shouldered a lot of that responsibility. I think for him to have a new challenge in the best domestic division there is on the planet, earning great money, I would presume, in a great city, playing in a brilliant arena, a great club. The backline that Racing could potentially field with him in the team next season is frightening. I think there's so many reasons that this makes sense. And actually, reverting back to the point I made earlier about what Steve Borthwick and this current England team would do, I think it's a really exciting opportunity for them as well to develop, to move forward, to try something different. I think it would actually work out in a lot of different areas. Now, I'm not in the camp of someone who dislikes Owen Farrell. I know he is a player that splits opinion. I think England would miss him in a lot of ways. I think he's a brilliant rugby player, but I think there is opportunity for development here as well. So let's wait and see. Let's wait and see if it is true. But what do you make of those two things? Probably the two main questions that I've posed there really. What do England do in the here and now? I think most of you are going to want to see Steve Borthwick go for a Marcus Smith or a Finn Smith and develop the attack. I'm not sure that's going to happen, but it could be an opportunity for George Ford to take up the reins as well. And what about the RFU and the England selection policy? As I've just said, I don't actually mind Farrell moving abroad because I think it presents an opportunity for England, but it also, once again, opens up that discussion of is English rugby currently in a financially strong enough position to hold the international players to ransom of you have to play in the Premiership to play for the England national team? Do they need to show a bit of flexibility? Or actually, if they do that, the horse is bolted and they would never be able to regain that control, if you like. I don't know. It's an interesting discussion. You can let me know. You can make sure that you're subscribed to the channel, like the video as well, and I'll see you in the next one.